The Bucks can't close the deal on a series in San Diego, and Andrew McCutchen hits a milestone home run. That's next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan. Today we'll be talking about the weekend series against the Padres, a milestone homer for Cutch, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the near constant critique of coaching. Okay? So let's start right away with the Pirates lost 2 of 3 to the Padres, and they had a chance to win all 3. And now they get set to face the Astros and Phillies at home. Part of that one of the toughest schedules left in baseball. I think all schedules look tough when you don't have a great record. I mean, I think the assumption is that, and people don't think about this, but weighted into that toughest remaining schedule is not just the record of the teams that you have left to face. It also factors in your record and how far away you are from them, how uneven the matchup is. So when you are one of the teams that has one of the worst records in the game, you're going to be seen as having a very hard schedule. It stands to reason, doesn't it? The biggest takeaway I have from the weekend is that this Pirates team is capable of hanging with the next level of team, meaning the guys who are like right in front of them, around 500, a little over even, some even up to like 5 to 10 games over. These are the teams this Bucks unit can and should hang with. The Pirates scored 11 runs to the Padres, 9 in this series, and for sure had the better of the starting pitching. There was a lot to like in this series. I mean, first of all, the Pirates have not played the Padres well in the last couple seasons. So just to get that first shutout in 24 years knocked out here in San Diego was kind of impressive. It's the first time they've won in quite some time in San Diego. But more than anything, you could just tell this was a different matchup than it was the last time the Pirates played them, when they played them at home. I'm not going to go chapter and verse through the difference in the scoring or even who was here at the time, because it really doesn't matter. All teams have to deal with injuries. All teams have to deal with all the same stress factors, maybe minus their owner not spending enough money. But regardless, you know what your team is. And when we watched them play at home against San Diego, it didn't feel competitive at all. I mean, it felt to me like the Padres were the superior team. They played like the superior team. They overwhelmed the Pirates. There was no step forward that didn't come with the price of 3 steps back. They were just beaten into submission against the Padres last time they played them. Not so much this time. They have had some new additions. They have had some guys come back to the lineup. They've also had some resurgent performances from people. Some guys starting to hit a lot closer to what they're supposed to hit like. And you don't have to take that all the way down to the Tommy Pham level, but even Tommy Pham is hitting more like the basement level of what you'd hope he would do. He's making better contact and he is getting on base. So while I'd still rather see Alexander Canario, and we'll talk about that later in the coaching, I do think that you can honestly say most of what they hoped for, well, it's starting to come true. They are getting better results from a lot of their lineup. I still don't think it's strong enough, but if you're just talking about the best of what they thought this team could be, I think you're starting to see it. I really do. I think it's starting to come together. We also got to see Andy Rodriguez make his first appearance since coming off the IL on Sunday. Played catcher. I didn't notice anything on the surface really that was awful behind the plate. I think he does okay there's a couple times when I think he's a little jumpy. Like one thing that you don't ever do to a veteran pitcher is call timeout in the middle of their windup, and he did. And he stood up right as Andrew Heaney was like in his wind up, getting ready to come to the plate, and called time, and luckily got it. That easily could have been a balk. Easily. I'm kind of shocked it wasn't. But you could see Andrew Heaney's face on camera, like when they filmed from behind the mound, basically like, what the hell did this dude just do? Like, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what the miscommunication was. Maybe Andy just last second decided there's no way I can have him throw this pitch. It's going to get creamed. Maybe he was crossed up, wasn't sure which pitch was coming, and that's a big moment to like not give up that big pitch. But man, that's a no-no. And like that's something that I do think, youth probably gets in the way there a little bit. Looks like Joey Bart's okay. Or at least seems to be like the symptoms have subsided. He's getting around okay in the clubhouse. He's already doing workouts on the field. So any of the thoughts that this might be a long-term injury to Joey Bart, I think you can kind of quelch. You're probably going to see Joey Bart inserted back into this roster. I would imagine as soon as the 7-day concussion IL is up, and then that puts into question, what do you do with Endy? I don't know that there's like a real great answer here. I think we're probably back to what we were talking about before the Bart injury, which is let's get Endy some time in AAA and see if he can't kind of catch fire and figure things out. But it's hard to argue that like Endy isn't at least a better bet to get something out of than having a guy like Nick Solak just sit up here and do nothing. They're not playing him. I don't think they see a use to play him, which, it's questionable to me why you bother calling up a kid. Like the kid got called up because and I shouldn't call him a kid. He's almost 30. Might even be 30. He is 30. Regardless, this is a guy that was destroying AAA. There's only one reason to call a guy like that up. See if it spreads. See if he's going to bring it with him. See if he's going to continue to hit like that. You're not going to get that playing him once or twice a week. And before, you act like I'm crying for Nick Solak, I don't have a good place to play him either. Where are you going to put him? Where are you going to put him? Adam Frazier's hitting really well. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not sitting him right now for Nick Solak. Horwitz just got here. I'm not sitting him for Nick Solak. Canario's been hitting. Sure, recently he's been down a little bit. But they're replacing him with Tommy Pham, who has... Listen, I don't like Tommy Pham. I don't think I need to go back in history and tell you all this, but right now, he's hitting. At least enough to like be a backup outfielder. So like Canario and Pham have that kind of on lockdown. I just don't see the place for Nick Solak. I just don't. And it's not that I have anything against him. I wanted to see him up here too. It just feels like to me you brought him up here for this one reason, and then I don't know what you expected to happen, but you've only played him like once or twice. I don't know where you thought you were going to get anything. Feels to me at this point like he's DFA fodder. I would almost guarantee when Nick Gonzalez comes back. Actually, I shouldn't do that because with the Endy situation, it could be that Endy is the one that goes down for Nick Gonzalez. And maybe they're fine with Nick Solak just being a dude that's just on the bench, and they don't care if he gets at bats because he's gotten them in this league before, and so what? Okay. I mean, I think if you're going to have a guy like that, I'd almost rather have a glove. I'd rather have a guy who's just going to play a bunch of positions. But if you think about what they've actually been doing with this lineup recently, isn't that what Jared Triolo is? If anything, it kind of feels like they could use an extra bullpen arm. Like, I wish that Major League Baseball would change the rules so that they could carry 14 and go with 12 bench players, because it feels like that's all they need. They've got X amount of guys they're happy to use in the lineup. Maybe you'd be better off having an extra reliever. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that you guys feel or not, but it just, to me, I look at the situation, and it always feels like there's going to be two spots where you're just not going to get at bats in this lineup. Period. And we've still got Nick Gonzalez coming back, and that's going to strengthen the bench because it is going to move Frazier to the bench. And I bet they'll start using Frazier in the outfield a little bit too, just to keep the bat in there and maybe go more all lefty against righties here and there. Interesting times, interesting series. The fun thing is, I think we have seen more competitive baseball, and that's important. When we come back, it's all Cutch. We're going to go Cutch hard for the next segment. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I toss these babies in my golf bag every time I head to the course. No shells, Wonderful Pistachios for that grab and go ease, and I wind up sharing them with the whole group by the time we finish a round. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. You guys have been killing it lately. I really have been adding to the list, and I'm super excited about it because every time you do that, I got to rely just a little bit less on social media that seems to crumble from underneath us more and more every week. Unreliable, difficult. They tramp things down to make sure that you can't see them at a certain volume if you're not paying them. The more you guys don't have to rely on social media to see when this show is, the better. So subscribe on YouTube or any of the podcast services that allow you to do so. We're on all of them. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, Andrew McCutchen, he hit a big home run. Okay. He's now tied with Roberto Clemente for 240 home runs. That's good for third on the list of all-time Pirates. Roberto is a lot more than a home run hitter, but for this stat, do keep in mind Clemente had almost 3,500 more at-bats than Cutch did as a Pirate. That's pretty impressive. Let's do some other things that Andrew's getting close to, or where he sits right now, because you never know. We could be watching the last season of Andrew McCutchen. We could see another yet. But either way, I think for the most part, he's kind of locked in on some of these, and some he's rather close to kind of taking another step. So let's go through them and have some fun. McCutchen also just passed Archie Vaughn for sole possession of 9th place all-time for hits as a Pirate. That's a spot he'll remain in, as the next one is Bill Mazeroski, who has 2,016. Cutch currently has 1,713. So there's no way he's going to play long enough to catch up to Bill Mazeroski. It seems like he's destined to finish in 9th place on the all-time Pirates list. Runs is another category Cutch could move up on. He currently is in 10th with 953. Tommy Leach holds down 9 with 1,009, and Fred Clark is 8th with 1,015. Cutch could pass both of those before he's done if he plays another year. I don't see him being able to pull that off this year. But you're talking about, a little over 60 runs. I think he could probably do that in 2 years here. How about RBI? Cutch is 7th with 836. That's just 17 shy of Bill Mazeroski for 6th all-time And he'll go no further than that since Paul Wainer at 1,177 is holding down the fifth spot. So there's a wide chasm between Bill Mazeroski and Paul Wainer. Walks. Cutch has 845. That's good for fifth all time. And he could, if he plays long enough, wind up number one. Willie Stargell leads the pack with 937. He's just 32 behind Honus Wagner for fourth. So there's something that I think you could see a lot of movement with. And Cutch does rack up walks, even at this stage of his career. So that's something that he really and truly could climb all the way to the top of the list for. I'm not sure that you'd, as a player, that you'd run around bragging about setting a walks record, but hey, it's an offensive category and it's much more valued today than it was. So, I can understand why there's more of a focus on it for younger players or this generation's players. Either way, Cutch has a chance to be at the top of that list. This one's going to roll a little bit as Andrew does, but right now he has a career OPS as a Pirate of 848. That's 1 point above the Cobra, a couple points behind Honus Wagner. This one could change wildly. You know how these things go. Now, if he sets that walk record I talked about, like in the next couple of years, good chance the OPS kind of hangs around where it is because walks are factored in to the OPS. The on-base percentage is a big part of that calculation. So good chance that he could move up there. Doubles, you ask? 338. That's good for seventh. He'd need to hit 33 to match Pie Trainer and 38 to tie Max Carey for fifth all time. It's a lot to ask from a guy who's hit doubles nowadays and who has to hit them instead of leg them out. This one's important, if only for context. Remember all the places we put Cutch when we talk through this list. Then consider that he's ninth all time for at-bats as a Pirate, and he'll never go higher, as Lloyd Wainer is eighth with 7,256. That's a full 1,211 games. And unless they allow exoskeleton suits, Cutch ain't playing 1,211 more games. Point is, he's near the top of a lot of these lists while having far fewer at-bats. I don't know if all of this adds up to an Andrew McCutchen Hall of Fame bid. He's iffy at best, if you really want to be brutally honest about it. I feel this is almost like the same discussion that we've had about Hines Ward throughout the years. Very, very good. Arguably the best at his position for a certain amount of time. Certainly the best at doing a certain thing here and there. Like Hines Ward was blocking. Andrew is just in general being an all-around good player. I think he's got a case. It's not a real strong one. We've seen other guys that are comparable make it in. I don't know that Andrew McCutchen's going to make it. We'll see what happens when his career is finally over. I can tell you on the Pirates side of things, obviously, he's a lockdown to make it into the Pirates Hall of Fame. And he's going to be near the top of the record books on just about every category offensively by the time it's over. Hell of a player, Andrew McCutchen. I want to talk about one more thing with Andrew McCutchen because on Friday there was like the Pirates were really, really having it out with the umpiring crew. They weren't happy. The team came together in their dislike for this umpiring crew and basically they were being hard done by. And I think they were right to a degree, at least on Friday night. It did clean up for the next two. But Andrew McCutchen kind of led that disdain. He stood there in the dugout staring down that umpire and not moving a muscle for the better part of an inning and a half, which was kind of hilarious because it's such a Cutch move to do something like that. What's anyone going to say to you? He's not yelling at you. He's not making hand gestures at you. He's just looking at you. Basically like a cat does when they judge you from afar while you're doing something that you know is wrong, and they somehow weasel their way into your conscience and stare holes through your soul. Well, that's what Andrew McCutchen was doing. But you saw it, the whole team got fired up behind it. The whole team. O'Neal Cruz was about as mad as I've ever seen him. Mitch Keller was screaming the F word out of the tunnel. I mean, these guys are starting to feel like they could win. They could be better. And now they're starting to feel like it's being taken from them. And Andrew very astutely put it, we haven't earned those kind of calls yet. Now, I don't think that he got a bad call because the Pirates have a bad record. But I do think that when you're the lesser team and you're playing Goliath, I do think there is a tendency for umpires to, well, trust the better team. A borderline call, well, it might go the way of that team that is supposed to be good as opposed to that team that isn't. Because how often are they doing the right thing? They took that ball, so it's probably not, right? I'm just saying human nature takes over. I don't think it's a nefarious thing. I don't think it's some grand conspiracy by Major League Baseball. I certainly don't think that umpire had money on the game or anything. I just think that when an umpire has doubt, they tend to lean towards the team that has earned that benefit of doubt. That's all. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it smart. Just where I'm at on it. And Andrew McCutchen, I think, stepped up in a big way and helped this team understand that part of the onus of getting calls like that is on you. Perform better. See if you can get them to start giving you those calls by playing better. Be a lot closer to the team you think you want to be than the team that you currently look like. When we come back, I want to talk about coaching. I know this sounds boring, but we really got to stop looking at every single move. And as soon as we get the results of said move, running out and pretending that we knew better. All right, welcome back to Pirates, Locked on Pirates. Man, Don Kelly already catching strays, right? It's the way of the world when you're a coach, okay? And social media has made this probably 50 times worse than it ever was before. Every time a coach makes a move, it's clearly a bet. It's clearly a bet. Is this going to be smart? Is this not going to be smart? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But when we have a game like yesterday where the Pirates bullpen blows it late, I think I saw a lot of people like blaming Don Kelly for bringing in Tanner Rainey. Like Tanner Rainey hadn't done anything good. Tanner Rainey just had a shutout inning in the 7th the other day. It's not always about being stupid. It's not always about making a bad decision. Sometimes it's about a player not performing the way that they have performed. Sometimes it really is about resting a guy. And sometimes it really is about that coach knows that somebody messed up their finger the other day and we don't want to talk about it because if we talk about it, then people will target him. You know, I mean, and I don't mean like just pitching, I mean hitting too. Like, well, why can't this guy pinch hit at least? You don't know what's going on with that guy. Not everything makes the medical list, okay? Sometimes people like me, but mostly journalists, they'll get some kind of a murmur that something's going on with somebody like, oh, O'Neal Cruz was dealing with a little bit of a stiff back for the last 3 days, but he played through it, and he struck out 6 of 9 times. Okay, well, why does a guy like that get to play with a slight injury, and someone else who has a little bit of a sore trunk or whatever can't? You know, why is it always that the manager is stupid? Why is it never that they just made a decision that has worked for them traditionally and now suddenly didn't work? Like Derek Shelton got a lot of these strays too, and he deserved them. But he deserved them more because he was a small child that continued to put his hand on the really, really hot handle that's sitting on the stove, and he never learned his lesson. That's why Derek Shelton got so much criticism, at least from people like me. I'm okay with you making a mistake as long as you learn from it. I'm also okay with understanding what your roster looks like and what you really have to work with. And when I see that it's not enough, I tend to like not kind of get on you about it. It was never Derek Shelton's fault that the team was what it was in 2021 and 2022. I still can look back objectively at those years and I can say I think he could have done better. I think there's areas where he screwed up. I think there are times where he was super stubborn with his usage of bullpen guys in certain roles. I just don't think that's what we've seen with Don Kelly yet. Okay. I certainly don't think that we need to like act like making one decision to bring in a bullpen guy that didn't work out is evidence that he's just as dumb or he's screwing up just as bad or this entire game is on him. I literally saw that from somebody. This game is literally on him entirely. Terrible job coaching today. I don't see that. I don't see that. I see a team that got out to a 4-1 lead and they're trying to carry that 4-1 lead to the end. They don't have a real good answer for the 7th inning right now. Baraki has been shaky recently. Caleb Ferguson, he's being miscast in that back end. And it's because they just don't have a lot of good options. Dennis Santana can't pitch every day. David Bednar can't pitch every day. Those two have been pretty good. But that's the 8th and 9th. You got Braxton Ashcraft up here, but they want him for long relief too. So like you had a feeling like they were probably trying to save him for the Burrows start, that's going to be coming up on Tuesday. But they ended up using him for an inning anyway, which may ultimately wind up being a mistake or it gets Braxton Ashcraft into a more regular bullpen turn. But that's the danger of doing something like that. You call up a starter and you want to keep him on some kind of a stretched out starter schedule. Well, now you're trying to run a bullpen with one less guy because where are you going to use him? If you have to keep him on schedule with the guy that you want him to back up, if that's what you're doing, if you're trying to set up a piggyback thing, so that creates a hole in your bullpen. And now you don't have as many options to go to anymore. Now you do have one less arm that you can use. He's got back end talent. If they want to use him there, use him. I think that you don't do yourself any favors when you onboard these kids up to the majors and then you try to pretend that they're still going to be starters even while they're sitting in a bullpen. Listen, I think it's better to just be honest with the kid and tell him like this year, this is what you're doing right now. I need you to be a bullpen guy. That means you could go out here and pitch like every 3 days, every 2 days, whatever. You can't just have that spot taken up because Burrows might struggle, or you might change your mind and put him in as a starter. If you might change your mind and put him in as a starter, put him back in the minors so that he can get normal starting rotation type stuff done. If you're bringing them up here Bring them up here for the role that you want them to fill. Let them play the role you want them to fill. If you need bullpen help, be bullpen help. It's okay. Look, it worked for Carmen Majinski. He did it for 2 years before trying to go back and start. You've already proven to them that you will give them that opportunity if it presents itself. So it should be a pretty easy sell for you. But don't bring people up here and half-ass it, because you're not doing them any favors. You're not doing the team any favors. And none of that has anything to do with the very fact that Don Kelly had limited choices to go to in that game. Did you want to see Joey Wentz? I'm asking. Who did you want to see in that situation? You can argue Tanner Rainey shouldn't be here, but again, he's had a lot more good outings than he's had bad outings. Chase Shugart has been great. I mean that. Great this year. He just blew up the other day. Does that mean he stinks? Did Don Kelly make a bad decision putting him in? You get what I mean? Now, if you want to talk about a bad decision that I do think Don Kelly makes, it's taking a guy like Joey Wentz, who has very proven out numbers that he's really bad when you bring him in with guys on base, and not so bad when you bring him into a clean situation. And they continue to try to use Joey Wentz as some kind of fireman that's going to come in and put out a situation. He's not. He's just going to give up. Whoever's on base is going to become a run, and then he'll start pitching. Like, that's what we've seen. So if you want to talk about bad coaching, yeah, there's bad coaching. There's not recognizing what's in front of you. And at that stage of the game, when you're bringing a Joey Wentz in, you definitely have other options. You start getting to like the 7th and the 8th, and you've already used 4 relievers. Yeah, your options are getting limited. You're not going to have like all the perfect matchups. You're not going to be able to play lefty-righty games all the time. You're going to have to deal. And you hope that 3 runs is enough for you to get through that. And it wasn't. But I don't think it automatically goes all the way to, boy, Don's stupid now. Listen, keep your pants on a little bit. All right? Don Kelly just got here, just started. Let's see how he does for a while. Stop watching baseball the way you do. I got to tell you, it's exhausting. There's an entire generation of people that have grown up in this social media world and just have absolutely no understanding for how long it takes to know shit in baseball. You don't learn it in one at bat. You don't learn it in a week. You learn it over series and months, and you digest chunks of play time and chunks of decisions being made. And you put them all together and you average them out. That's how baseball is. It's just like a kid that comes up here and hits 3 home runs in his first week after debuting, and then goes in the tank and doesn't do another thing for a month. There will be more fans that still think that's a quality player than there would be if you called up another very similar player who did nothing for the first 2 weeks and then hit a couple home runs in the next 3. There would be more people excited about option A than option B. And that's because it's all about how you start and where you guys decide they are in your head. You decide what type of player they are upon your first impression. And then from then on out, everything they do for the next 5-6 months and everything we talk about is about trying to convince you to change your mind from your original stance. That's what happens. That's what it feels like to me anyway from my perch. Calm down a little bit. All right? Donnie isn't losing you the World Series or anything. He's losing you a game against the Padres. And I think he kind of does it with one arm tied behind his back too. So Let's calm down. Competitive baseball's back. Let's watch it. I think we're going to see some good things against Houston here. They're nicked up too. So it might be a wounded animal coming into town. More on this tomorrow on Locked On Pirates. Make sure you're there. We're going to talk all about it. Can't wait.